Hello there. Tracker is a fantastic piece of freeware that allows you to analyze motion in a video and do very much more. It's available for all sorts of platforms, but if you work in a school, you probably find it quite difficult to get software installed on your network. However, there is a way of running Tracker in a browser, and that's what we're going to do here. So to make this work, you'll need a computer with a modern browser, an internet connection, and a file that you're going to analyze stored on the computer locally. Now, what I'm going to be doing this on is a Chromebook, which, as you know, these are increasingly popular in schools. So here's the URL, and I'm visiting the site, and I'm going to launch Tracker online. Now, I have to either sign up for an account if I haven't done that so before, but I already have an account, so I'm going to log in here. Here's my password, no looking. And in we go. Now, when I use this platform, if I'm using it for free, then I wouldn't be able to save my work, etc. And I can upgrade at a price, but I'm not going to do that because I've found that you can really do loads even with the free version. So I'm going to launch Tracker with limited capabilities. Here we go. Here's a top tip. Just talk amongst yourselves just now. And there we go. Let's just maximize this. Now, the first thing we have to do is to get a video in to analyze. And normally we would do this by going to Video and Import, and then just navigate to a point on our computer where the file was stored. On the online version, you can't do this. You have to either link your online storage, like Google Drive, to Rollup. Now, we did do that, but we were a wee bit concerned about some of the permissions that Rollup was asking. Fortunately, there is another way, and if you look here, you'll see there are some wee dots up here, and if I move my mouse to these wee dots, then there's an icon with the arrow pointing upwards, and that's going to allow us to upload a file from our computer. So I'll navigate to the right file. We don't want my GPX files of my cycling routes. We want the tracker files. Open that and have a look. Scroll through, and I'm going to use this one called projectiles MP4. I can make that file available for you if you want to try exactly this activity out for yourself, or you could use your own file. Now, when I do that, the file goes into this folder called local sync, and I can then import it. Click OK, and there we are. Now, what do you see in that file? Well, not a lot at the moment, because all you can see here is a dark background and a ruler. But these are important things. The dark background, because we want to have a contrast between our moving object in the background, and the ruler, because we need to give things a sense of scale. If we're going to be making any kind of quantitative measurements here. We're only interested in the shape of graphs, etc. We can skip this stage. So up to the little ruler icon with the 10 beside it, new calibration stick. And then you go to the end of the little half-meter stick here and shift-click at one end, move to the other end and shift-click. Now, that is not 270.8 meters, it's 0.5 of a meter, so I'll put that in the little box there and return, and there we are. Now we can also set axis, so I'll move up to the axis tool up here, and I'll drag the axis down there. Now there is a way of tilting the axis so they run along a slope, which you can investigate if you're interested later. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to tell Tracker to follow a moving object. So to do that, we go up to Create here, and what we choose here is Point Mass. Now nothing's actually visible on the screen for us to track at the moment, so I'm going to move the slider bar here until we see something appear. There we are. And I can use the little nudge buttons to get this just in position. So now we move our cursor to the moving object, hold down Shift, that's important, and click. And we see that there's a marker in place. The ball has moved onto the next video frame. There's a plot on the graph here, and the frame counter down here has gone up by 1. And we shift click our way through the ball's journey. You'll see that it's not a well-defined object, it's streaky because of the filming, but we just be consistent and click in the same place all the time. In my case, I've chosen to click right at the end of the moving object's path. So there we go, bouncing now, follow it up. And that's about as far as we can go. And we see that it has plotted a graph of x displacement versus time. Not the most interesting thing to look at in a projectile, but if we move over to the label in the axis and click, we see we get a whole lot of other options. So here's the y velocity. Let's have a look at that. And look at that. That's great, isn't it? A lovely sawtooth graph. The only thing that we might not like about it is the joined dots, but if I right click on the graph, I can remove these lines, and that's better. Now here's what I really love about Tracker. If I now wind my video back and either replay it using the play button or step through it using these little nudge buttons, you can see that the graph highlights the point that I'm actually at on its movement. So I can see that we get this sudden change from a negative to a positive velocity as the ball bounces. I don't know about you, but I think that's great. Now we can get even more from this graph if we double click on it. And there we are, we get a larger version of the graph, which I'm going to maximize. And uncheck the lines thing again. Now what I can do here is I can move on to the graph and drag over a group of points and then go to Analyze and Curve Fits. And what it's done is it's created a best fit line, and down here it gives you the parameters of that line. Now what we would call the gradient is this A parameter, and the gradient of this part here is minus 9.11, and that of course is the acceleration of the ball, and that will be the acceleration due to gravity plus the effects of air resistance, and I think minus 9.11 is pretty good. Now in this version of Tracker, the online version running it in a browser, unless you pay to expand your roll-up tool to upgrade it, then you'll not be able to save anything here. But to me, what we've done so far is really perfectly good as an activity for the students to do.